button on this bad boy. We should be live, world, galaxy,
Oh,
on the internet. Now I'm going to check the window where I have that going to see
yes.
if we are indeed
In my favorites mode.
Let me
running.
minimize the zoom
Okay.
so I can see the panelists.
I see a thing. It's not offline any longer. It says 5 people watching. If I click okay, good. I'm going to pause my video so the sound. Okay, internet, this is the first time we've done this for real. So we are streaming, ladies and gentlemen. We are now viewable to the entire galaxy of people in the universe.
Wow.
Hi, Shauna.
That's
Hi,
a big
Angie.
responsibility. Yeah, okay, so let's introduce ourselves. This is real people talking about issues. And we're real people. If you pinch us, do we not bleed? Or cut us, we do not bleed. If you pinch us, do we not scream in pain? Yes, we do, for real people. And we're tired of you calling us names. Every angle of every, well, I mean, maybe we're not. Maybe we enjoy the names. Some of us are tired. Some of us enjoy it. You know, that people
I don't
would
care what
your
they
shirt,
call me as
Angie.
long as they call me.
So, what shirt is Angie going with? Does Angie have a good shirt on? Angie?
Well,
Oh.
someone amazing must have made it.
The running the McCoys from the Hatfield and McCoys St. James Thunder cross country running team. If this goes badly, this is not affiliated with them. But if this goes well, they're sponsors. So, keep that in mind.
Also, the official supplier of the St. James buffs for the
Oh, really? The mask things? Is that we call it a buff? Is that the stylish name for a mask?
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. Okay. So
that's the first time I've ever heard that. Really? It's a thing?
Me too, but I'm sure there's a name. There's always going to be a marketing name, right? And we call it a buff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
I think I have it somewhere.
That's probably what merch people call it. So, I mean,
well, actually, those of us in the apparel profession,
yes,
they're called neck gaiters as the official name.
What?
Yes, GAITER. And apparently the runners call them buffs. I'm just saying.
Shauna, you make the masks, don't you?
Not those. No.
Oh, you don't?
No,
okay.
No.
So there's no conflict of interest for you on this.
No. I have them here. I've never made them though, except for my family. So yeah.
Well, darn, I was going to get you to make me some, but okay.
Well, yeah, actually, Mike has some designs in mind for his. So
okay.
Anyway.
Oh, nice.
Right, so, ladies and gentlemen of the universe, we're 4 friends who we all know each other. We were going to have some other.
Sophia's trying to get in.
Okay, that's fine. Oh, I got to click admit for the. I see. My bad. I'm really bad at managing this and talking. I don't multitask. I like to think I have a very fast single-threaded processor, but I am no Spark processor. I'm definitely Intel with just one thread. Okay, we see Blanket Burrito, so she'll get video maybe shortly. All right, so ladies and gentlemen of the universe, we thought it would be a good public service. So this is a public service. This is to bring healing and love to the world. So we thought, and the best way to do that is to take opposite sides on some hot button issues and fight to the death. And then at the end, if anyone's still alive, hug it out. Because that's what the world needs more of.
You said death?
Is love, sweet love, death, and then hugging. That's probably what we need more of.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're going to get, right? We're going to get death because that's taxes, death and taxes. And then there'll be some hugging along the way. So we're going to do those things.
All right.
So episode 1 here, the first show is going to cover 2 topics. We're going to have Star Wars versus Star Trek. And we're going to have the COVID mask thing, yay or nay. Should everyone wear them? Should nobody wear them? Is there a middle ground? Right? So I'm going to save all the other excitement for when we really get into it. So lovely panel of volunteers, of people who are willing to go out on a limb here and do what must be done for the good of humanity. What topic shall we go with first? Anyone care?
I think I would go with mask first because I think Star Wars versus Star Trek is going to be a lot more interesting.
Okay, you're probably right. And probably a lot more important, really, in the long run. Because when aliens come and find the remnants of a discarded civilization, they're not going to care about the mass as much as they're going to care about our sci-fi, right?
if Galaxy Quest has taught us nothing, that they will care deeply about our sci-fi, especially our sci-fi TV shows.
Well, that's good to know. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
All right, so we'll do Star Wars versus Star Trek first, right? So I have here the handy.
No, we're doing masks. We're doing masks.
Oh, my bad.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay. See, one processor, and I was over here, and I need an interrupt to bring me back over here to the mask. Okay. Masks. So we have. It looks like we have a radical, insane pro-mask person in blanket burrito.
Oh.
And then we have
the Venetian plague doctor mask and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Angie and Frank. Will you guys
throw in
be
the towel?
will you guys be teaming up on the anti-mask side?
Well, I mean, maybe this is the problem. It's that I just haven't seen a mask with that kind of panache.
I want that, but I have a hard time imagining I can wear that with my glasses. Otherwise, I would have one for sure.
Yeah. See, I haven't seen anyone in like a Chewbacca mask or anything like that. And had I seen more of that, I might have been on board. But so far, I just haven't seen that.
I saw the kids at the coffee shop in Harper's Ferry at Rations. They were wearing Star Wars masks.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the creepy William Shatner mask that Mike Myers wears in Halloween would have been okay.
Pro.
But I just don't like the surgical masks.
Con.
No, I
agree.
agree.
Just the surgical one?
Which is one of my points. But I'll save it.
Well, okay. All right. So we've got our sides, right? We have Blanket Burrito and Shauna on the pro side, and we have Angie and Frank on the anti side, right?
Yes.
So to get this started, why don't we? Do we want to flip for initiative? Should we roll for initiative?
Yeah. Do you have a D20? Can we roll a D20?
You know what? I'm going to think of a number between 1 and 10, and I want Frank and Shauna at the same time to yell out a number, and whoever is closer, that side will go first. Hold on, let me think of the number. And okay, shout.
2.
Oh, whoops, 5. Sorry.
It was 8. So Shauna's going to go first.
No, not Shauna. That side. Blanket Burrito's going first.
Oh, you want? Oh, okay. Blanket Burrito. Are you ready?
Do they do an opening statement kind of a thing?
Yeah.
Or?
So I'm thinking, why don't we do a brief
Gotta
opening statement where we outline our key core points, which I will put on the whiteboard of understanding and peace and tranquility.
I went upstairs. It was too loud down here.
Okay. So this is pro Blanket Burrito. Do you have any points?
I don't know.
Okay, I have 2 points.
Awesome.
Okay. Point 1.
Yes.
So when I say that I'm pro-mask, I mean that I'm pro-mask when... So if someone is exhibiting symptoms of corona, then I am all for them wearing a mask in public, or if like someone is more at risk, like if they have underlying health conditions, stuff like that, then I'm all for them wearing a mask. But I'm not for forcing everyone to wear a mask.
Well, come on, you wouldn't make it in Michigan then. Come on. They would throw you in the gulag right now.
You should come to my side.
You can't just start off reasonable. You have to start off like put them in masks or put them in work camps.
Well, just because you're anti-mask, does that mean that you're completely against any mask usage?
I don't know. That's for them to tell you.
All right, let me throw something out. Let me add to you here, Blanket Burrito.
Yeah.
So I just was reading an article today. Actually, I was watching a video of a physical therapist who was exhibiting no signs.
Asymptomatic.
Asymptomatic, correct. She was tested because she worked with a COVID population, or she'd been around people who were diagnosed. She tested positive, completely asymptomatic. Within 24 hours, she had a fever and started showing signs. So if she went by the whole I'm exhibiting signs thing, she wouldn't have had a mask on during that first 24-hour period, and who knows how many people she could have gotten sick from that.
So
now,
wasn't there a study done that said that if you're asymptomatic, you probably aren't contagious?
I know, Sophie, you're on the wrong side.
I'm infighting. I'm sorry.
No,
seriously, come on, cut it out. You're supposed to be beating up the other side.
You're supposed to be on the, and I'm not. Anyway, what, Angie?
I'm sorry.
She's not a plant for our team, by the way.
Are very
Maybe, well, actually, maybe.
Benedict Burrito here. Come on.
Cut her off.
Right? Come on, blanket burrito. I'm about to roll you right off the bed.
All right, everybody be quiet. Give Shauna the floor.
All
Shauna,
right,
go ahead.
Shauna.
Beat him down with
No,
science.
so anyway, my
Beat 'em down.
point is that, and
Science.
again, if you're wearing a surgical mask, you're not wearing it to protect yourself, right? Because that's ridiculous, because the virus particles are too small and they're going to go through it anyway, right? But you're sneezing and you're releasing droplets. It's going to keep those droplets in the mask, and it's not going to deposit them on the grocery cart, for instance, at Walmart, that you're going to come in touch, right? So it's keeping those droplets in. I can't tell you how many patient rooms I've been in. They've had the flu, for instance, small virus particles. I'm required to wear a surgical mask, not an N95, a surgical mask. I've not once ever caught the flu from one of my patients, ever. They're coughing, they're doing all kinds of stuff. So it does provide some level of protection. Not 100%, right? I mean, of course not. So my mask is preventing transmission, whether it is of me giving it to somebody else or somebody giving me something. So maybe I've prevented one person from getting COVID, right? If I have it and I'm wearing my mask and I don't know yet that I'm sick, right? Okay. When we march for life, let me ask you this. When we march for life, don't we always say if it could save one life, it's worth it? Hey, you shush.
One innocent life.
One innocent life, right? So we say one life, it's worth it. Because if I'm marching in DC, I am really like directly, am I saving any lives? No. But if I can save one life, it's worth it because we're pro-life people, right?
So Shauna, in what you're laying down is maybe Angie, is this like the a guilt fallacy or something? No, but
That would
seriously.
be so, yeah.
So you're advocating for a personal moral responsibility, or are you advocating for a government enforced smackdown?
No, I'm personal moral responsibility.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
Personal moral resp. Okay. All right. Are you good with your opening statement, or do you want to?
You want to add anything to that, blanket burrito?
In favor of your partner?
In favor, yeah, on your
right,
team.
in my favor. Don't go against me.
In this scenario, would we be forcing them to wear the masks?
That's up to
Because
you.
I'm pro-mask, except when the government comes in and mandates that every single person.
Oh, okay, stop. Zip. Shit, throw away the key. No. Don't be reasonable yet. Come on, that's for later. We hug it out at the end when we're all like, oh, okay, we love each other.
Sophia.
All right. All right, let's turn it over to Frank. Frank can lay some smack down, right, Frank?
Am I being requested to?
Tell the British to stuff it. Come on, Frank.
All right. I'm not gonna go full McLaughlin group over here, but I mean, look, I guess here's my objection, and unfortunately, I guess I'm probably a little bit. I'm probably a little bit in the reasonable camp too.
We're not supposed to say we're reasonable.
I
Don't
know.
do
I
that
can't.
yet.
I
Save that
can't
for
do
later.
it. I can't go full McLaughlin group. I can't just be like wrong.
Great.
Wrong. I just
But
can't
that
do it
gets ratings.
because you're not right. I don't really believe it. But here's why I object to what has become in my perception, and this is my perception, so I think I can probably quantify it if you forced me to, but at this point I'll say it's my opinion. A very public pressure to wear a mask, and this is why I object to it. It's very much become a game of choose your expert, right? So I can choose an expert who says you shouldn't wear. Well, but I'll get to that in a second. I'll get to the air quotes in a second. So I can choose an expert just anywhere on the internet who's a brain surgeon. I can choose the CDC from some particular week. I can choose Anthony Fauci from some particular week. I can choose any number of other people who said one thing, now they're saying another, who've given one opinion and now they're giving another. And what invariably seems to be happening on the other side is when you do that, the other side is accusing you of being an armchair epidemiologist, which is really not fair because you're choosing an expert just the same way they are. They just don't like your outcome. Or the other side is doing the same thing. And it's really just sort of become ridiculous. All of this is being framed by a virus that has probably the widest I'm not I'm not an epidemiologist, but I can't think of anything comparable. Any virus that has such a wide variety of symptoms, of transmission methods, of just sort of there's a vagueness around the contagion,
So
around
are you?
immunity, and
Well,
it's
hold
like
on. Are you saying that it's not very well understood, but very very contagious?
I'm saying it's not well understood, and it's
Mhm.
the assessment of its contagiousness is still also not very well understood,
Yep,
and
I agree.
yet
But that doesn't lend it to your
I'm
con.
being forced by a weird sort of peer pressure to wear a mask. I was sort of mask shamed, a few weeks ago by a guy wearing a mask on his chin, um, and I'm just like, this is utterly ridiculous. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't take precautions, and Shauna makes, I think, a very interesting point. Hey, you've never caught the flu. That's great. Um,
Yeah.
that that's great. But with the ridiculous sort of vast universe of things we don't know about this virus, for anyone to be so adamant that I
Mhm.
have to take X precaution, frankly, is ridiculous because we know so little. I hear something new every week. I can't think of a single point of you should do this or not do this. It affects these people over these people. It affects certain people this way and that way. That hasn't been proven untrue in almost every instance. So it's like, why on earth should I take any of this seriously? I understand that masks will protect me at certain points,
Let's raise hand.
but why? But if that's the case, why am I not wearing masks all the time? And then to the point of one life is worth, saving. Okay, great. Well, I don't know when I might be walking around. I could be the next, patient zero, for the next, global pandemic. That's not COVID. Well, should I wear a hazmat suit all of the time? I mean, that's kind of a straw man because clearly
Right.
there's not. We all know there's a virus circulating. But the point is, when does this end? At what point, at what point do you, is the bar so incredibly high? We're going to save just one life, and we're not even going to quantify whether
Well,
there's
when you
any
get into
efficacy in doing this at all.
it,
I just don't see it.
the save one life thing is tough because you could. I mean, the internet is full of memes, right, that argue against. Well, maybe we shouldn't drive because people die when car crashes. Maybe we shouldn't do all these other things. So I mean, that's a thought, but it's not necessarily real. Like in every sense, right? There's always a cost benefit. There's always an analysis, a risk analysis, that
Okay,
sort of
but
thing.
wait, the whole
But go ahead.
driving thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
the driving thing. Okay, I use my turn signal. I stop at a stoplight.
Hmm.
I wear a seatbelt. I'm careful when I drive.
Forces you to wear a
Well,
seatbelt.
that too, but I do all those things so I don't harm somebody else, right? I don't just willy nilly like just drive and if I hit somebody, I hit them. They might survive. They might not. And
Hmm.
so
So you're
that's
talking about
kind of
reasonable
not
precautions to protect other people's lives.
exactly, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So far from Frank, we have
Yeah, why do I have so
reasons
few? I have so few over there.
against
I
the
made
mask,
no
and they're
point.
not even good ones, Frank. You've
Yeah,
got
they're not very good.
you've got
I got a few
peer
to add.
pressure
All
and
the
reject
all the
certainty to
points
do
on
nothing.
our side is
That's
probably
what
from
you've
all the
got.
fighting.
All right. Do we have any more cons? Any more anti-mask points?
Oh,
Andrew.
Well,
I got
honestly,
points.
but actually, no, Paul. The really
Yeah.
the one point is the onus is on the pro mask people to prove that I should have to wear it at all. And
Okay.
I still revert back to the choose your own expert model here.
Okay.
And they can choose any number of experts that say I should be wearing a mask or give me anecdotal information, which Shauna gave me, or beside a physical therapist who,
Right.
I'm not supposed to laugh at them for not being an epidemiologist either, because it's on, it's their position, uh, and they support it. But I can probably find myself a physical therapist who says I don't
Mhm.
need to wear a mask. And
Well,
they
it
also
So
wasn't
have
a
you're the
physical therapist that
quintessential American, Frank,
wait, hold
right?
on. The physical therapist was someone who was giving her personal experience.
fair enough.
So it wasn't she was just saying, oh, I'm an expert. She was
Right.
giving her own
Right.
personal, she like thought she wasn't contagious. She wasn't worried
Mhm.
at all about giving it to
Sure.
somebody else.
But again, there's any number of experts that are doing that, and I can choose
Right.
one, or you can choose one, and we can
Sure.
and we can go watch them fight it out. But I mean, in the end, the onus is on the people who are telling me to drastically change the way I live my life and what I
Does
put up my face,
does
and
wearing a mask
and
in
something that's going
public,
to fog my glasses up like it drives me insane.
not if you pinch
Uh,
it right?
I know. I'm not doing it.
That is
Uh,
Or you could
horrible.
get
I
one
mean,
of
I
those
can't imagine my
special
glasses ever
crochet.
being fogged up.
face
All right, let's
mask.
give
Can I
Angie a
add a
turn.
few points?
Yeah, and
the
let's get
struggle is
Angie,
real.
Angie throw some points up here. All right, Angie, what do you
All
got?
right, so a couple of my points, and this is a life lesson, because when you volunteer your kid for something, Paul Beatty will volunteer you as well, and I appreciate that.
It's my pleasure.
So,
You have so much to say. I want you to share
I
it.
do, and
Yeah.
nobody, I
Yeah.
need an
Hey,
audience.
Paul,
So
can you show the board though? We can't see the board very well.
Can you see that better?
No.
No.
Do you want me to read it? I can kind of. I don't know how to zoom. I'm a
There's a
substandard
glare
computer
too.
guy.
That's part of the issue.
Is that any better? I'm just gonna hug it now to me. Can you see
Sorry,
that?
Angie.
A little bit.
Jessica texted.
is that cursive?
Is that good? Oh, there's a little chat thing down here. Says. I love you, Frank. All right. All right. So even if it's hard to, I mean, my handwriting is atrocious. This is why I'm qualified to speak on medical issues, because of my handwriting. So on the pro side, we have symptomatic, ought to wear it. High risk, you ought to wear it. Question: can asymptomatic be contagious? Surgical mask too small for aerosolized, but good for your juices, like your mucuses and your spit.
That's
and
exactly
whatnot,
what I said.
right? And brevity, right? Wearing a mask is something. It's better than nothing, and it's a personal moral responsibility, right? On the anti side, we have peer pressure makes us not want to do it. We reject people's certainty when we know that nobody really knows.
The moderator is obviously in the bag for the pro mask.
Off with the certain people. And then Angie was going to give us a number 3, I hope.
All right, so just to kind of as my opener, I think first of all we need to differentiate between the real hot spots like New York City and the fact that we're in West Virginia. And we are considered a hot spot in Jefferson County. We were until recently, but that was with 1 or 2 deaths, right, in Jefferson County. So we immediately closed down. And right now, as the governor is suggesting that we wear a mask, we were today in Maryland, and to go into Chipotle, we had to put a mask on, right? And we did want Chipotle bad enough that we were okay with going in there. But the interesting thing is, this is, first of all, it's unprecedented, right? This is recently SARS, MRSA, H1N1 for everybody, whether symptomatic or asymptomatic, to wear a mask. And I am married to a first responder, and I'm married to a first responder who has been assigned specifically to track corona exposure and positive results within the fire department. So I get to hear a lot of stuff. And one of the things that even through all of these outbreaks, as he was attending patients, or even on a day-to-day basis where he does deal with patients who have suspected pathogens, the only time first responders put a mask on is when they are when there is a situation where there is a suspected positive. So there are tons of, even now they get in trouble. They're supposed to wear the mask all the time, so it calms people, especially in Maryland. And they show up all the time not wearing a mask unless it's absolutely necessary where they walk into. And still, even so, even when they do attend to patients who end up being positive and they don't have a mask, they are not testing positive in the numbers that are expected. So first of all, it's not as contagious in Maryland as they think, or at least within the first responders. So I think there is a bit of a discrepancy in terms of how contagious it is. Second of all, requiring everybody to wear a mask when we do not know necessarily how contagious it is, or there is some discrepancy in the studies, it immediately exhausted the N95 supply to the first responders who needed it. So we were seeing doctors who were more exposed and who should have been wearing the masks were wearing the same mask over and over again when it was a one-time use mask. So we are taking away from it became a hot commodity. We're taking away from the people who really are exposed to that. Also, there was a study on Science Magazine in February that did claim that in Science Magazine, the study that said that asymptomatic people were contagious actually was flawed, because the person ended up being symptomatic and they didn't claim it. And we do see this, I hear about this all the time when they run patients in Maryland, that the first responders get the patient, put them in the ambulance. They say, no corona, no symptoms. They get to the hospital and immediately they tell the nurses, oh yeah, we've had a fever or we've had a cough, or so there is a bit of an issue there with the clarity. So not as contagious as expected. They are wearing it incorrectly. We went, so we did go to Chipotle and they all had it under their nose. So it was hilarious. And so that does kind of give a sense of a false sense of security. And also in terms of how contagious it is, I went to Aldi this morning, and the checkout lady does touch everything, right? We are in contact with things. So not necessarily the mask may protect us from sneezes or something like that. But if you are sneezing onto your hands and you're touching stuff, or you are contagious and you are touching things, then we'd have huge outbreaks. And we're just not seeing that in West Virginia. So my argument would be, I'm anti-mask in West Virginia, unless you feel like it's a comfort. I've had people say that psychologically it helps them, makes them feel safer. And only if they're symptomatic. I think that's it. Oh, also in West Virginia, the clusters have been in the nursing homes. So there was a doctor at WVU who presented recently saying the odds of us actually coming in contact with someone with corona are pretty low. That's it.
Okay, so I'm going to boil that down to false sense of security. Or can you?
This thing is rigged from the beginning. I can't imagine what's going to happen when we get to the Star Wars segment.
I mean, are there some more succinct points? Are there more succinct points I can extract from that? That like false sense of
unprecedented that if you are asymptomatic that you wear a mask, not as contagious as expected.
So that kind of goes to this question, right? Can you be contagious if you're asymptomatic? That's a big unknown.
See, this is where I think there's such a problem here, and why my opening statement and pretty much all of my opinions about this, I don't point to experts and I don't point to any authority that I have, because I don't have any.
Well, you guys, the interesting thing is you haven't just if you look, I think it's on is it CDC or West Virginia's
CDC,
Health?
blah, blah, blah,
that is a good source.
The West Virginia Health Department, they distinguish between a mask and a face covering. So masks are not required, and they're saying face coverings. I think maybe that gets to Angie's point about them which doesn't really which even makes less sense to wear versus a mask. So I'm more in the camp, maybe closer to Frank, that it doesn't quite make sense.
Come on!
But
what?
What
was your wait.
Sleeping with the enemy, Shauna.
This interview is over. The subject is closed.
Oh no!
There will be no more discussion.
Our families after this.
No, I mean it is frustrating, because if you wear an N95, yeah, you're going to reduce the chance that you're going to spread, but then like you don't want to wear those long term, and you're going to touch it anyway. And when you're taught how to wear a mask, you're taught to throw it away after you're wearing it. So you take it off and you throw it away, you wash your hands, but now you've created take it off in a particular way. So the mask doesn't make sense. I mean, the face coverings, I think, that'll keep your own germs to yourself for the most part. But yeah, I don't think, I think you need to distinguish between masks and face coverings, and the purpose of each of those.
Yes. I want to jump in real fast. So a week or two ago, Zoom said that they were giving like more time than the 40 minutes. But now it's telling me like in 4 minutes, it's going to kill us unless I upgrade. So what I'm thinking is in 4 minutes, we all jump out and jump back in.
Paul, you can use my account. Well, okay, that's fine. I have an account. I have an account. I could host if you want.
Okay. Well, so
well, never mind. No, we just pop back in.
In a hurry. Then we can do it next week. So I real quick on the masks, I wanted to highlight a couple things. So I think from a reasonable perspective, because I'm reasonable, I am the voice of reason. I am the voice of reason. Obey me, right?
The biased voice of reason. Look at this whiteboard.
I have these these beautiful N95 masks, right? And so,
wow.
And so, Oh,
I ask people to
I
do
have
my
all of them. I
prescription.
bought them all. No, I'm kidding. I have a couple. And
Oh, I
and
don't know.
oh no, the hospital people are coming to get me. Help.
Oh.
So
ATF.
one, it's not good. So right, we're talking about different reasons to wear masks. So if we want to be reasonable, right, you wear a mask to protect yourself if you're high risk, right? This would protect you if you're high risk. You also can wear a mask to protect other people if you're sick, or if you think you might have it, you might be contagious, whatever, who knows. This will not help you because this has this little flap. When you breathe out, it pushes this flap. So this is great for breathing in, but doesn't protect people for breathing out. So these are legit N95s who have that. Some N95s don't. So make sure if you are going to do a mask, that you do a mask for the right reason, and that it does the things you want. You could conceivably duct tape the little valve flap thing. I haven't
Oh,
tried that.
lovely.
If you're worried about other people,
If you
I don't
duct
know.
tape that around your head, and
Y-
you'll
Very
fix all your problems.
very, very much. So there's that piece. The other piece is I really like the something is better than nothing approach, right? So I have a tendency when I get excited, some saliva comes out when right? So something's better than nothing. And I was in Chipotle. Was it Chipotle? It was somewhere last week,
Darn Chipotle.
and a
Man, I
dude
gotta go
had
to
the
Chipotle.
mask.
Man,
A dude had the
I'm
mask.
hungry.
He was doing the jam
I'm
where
not the
he's
only one
got
who hasn't been to Chipotle.
his face covering, like you were
Yeah.
talking about, like this. And at first I'm like, all my anti-mask friends would be making so much fun of you, dummy, right? And then I'm like, but wait a minute, maybe, again, something's better than nothing. That stops people like me from spitting everywhere when we talk. So in a sense, it's still something. It's still better than nothing, right?
What about the person
Not
who's wearing a
contagious.
mask and pulls it
What if
down
I
and
was?
coughs and then puts it back on?
That's what we
Yesterday.
call epic troll.
Saw that yesterday.
Did you really?
See,
I did.
I see that all the
He took it,
time.
dying.
Well, because you
Like,
don't want to.
I see it all the time. That's
You
what's
have to get
that's
the
what's so
virus
ridiculous
out.
about all this.
You have to get the virus out. You don't want,
Right.
that way you
Right.
keep.
Get it out. Cough it out. Get it
That
out.
seems
Get it out of your
reasonable.
system.
That seems.
Yep. So,
Well,
Paul,
what
am I
about
allowed to give
lowering
my
it to
actual
cough?
position?
Yeah, please. We
So
have about a minute.
I'm
and
mostly
a half
I'm
before
mostly
we
just
have to
I'm
go.
mostly just trying to be argumentative McLaughlin group style
No,
here. But
please.
I mean, honestly, yeah, my personal opinion is I'm not going to wear a mask anytime I don't have to. I've
Oh.
worn it pretty much since this whole thing started. I've worn a mask exactly one time, and that was because I was required to go into a government building and I needed to wear it. Any other time, I refuse to wear them anywhere. Now that's my personal preference, and I've let everyone that I love know, like, I'm not doing anything. I'm basically pretending like this thing is not happening, and I'm not taking any precautions at all. But I'm making sure everybody knows that. And
some
if
point
they
you-
don't feel comfortable, then I don't want I don't want you to be around me. I mean, and I don't. I'm trying to be very respectful to people. If you want to wear a mask, I get it. If you're worried about it, you should wear one. I get it. If you don't want me around me, or if I get forced to wear one, well, then I'll comply with it. But as long as I don't have to, I refuse to do it.
Or how
I hate
about
them. I find
Because you hate them.
and I suspect, and I have good reason to suspect it, because as I said at the outset, I can choose any number of experts who can back me up that it's completely ineffectual.
It's a shame
Well,
that
what
it's become
about-
so political, though. Like,
That's
it's
my
just
biggest
another
problem.
widget.
When it turned into some sort of quasi virtue signaling is when it
Right.
started to bother me.
Mhm.
But it bothered me from the beginning anyway, because I hate them.
Yeah.
but what, Frank? My question
I
I was like,
think
why is everybody sideways?
we are
Okay.
streaming again. Stand by. Let me verify. Wait for it. Stand by. Don't say anything that's going to get us ratings until we know.
Well, probably not me.
Oh, you know what I'm afraid of? I sure hope it didn't erase that. Wait,
Oh, you got to be kidding.
I'll
We were
die.
so eloquent.
We were the
Right.
best.
We were amazing.
We were literally the best that there ever was.
Nobody's ever been as good as we were.
I liked Mike because
Fighting
Mike's
in
mask at one of the St. James things was. I was like, I was hoping you put it on.
Which
That thing
one?
was so beat up.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
Oh,
I
you know
always
what?
wear.
You know what? I kept the stream going, so there's just going to be a dead spot on the stream.
That's what it looked like on.
So I
Yeah,
think, I think we're going to be okay. All right.
say
Sorry,
we're still
internet.
live. They're hearing everything.
Okay, good.
They,
All right.
they hear all.
So sorry, internet people. We had to. We're cheap. So anyway,
Times
Mountain
are
Dew
tough
Chinese
during
people.
Corona.
hasn't paid for our stuff yet. So
We're still live.
Well,
Okay.
so here's my question is, and it might be kind of going off the side on a side topic, but what if they had told us instead of shutting everything down at the beginning, if they had said, you know what, everything will stay open, but you just need to wear a mask at this point? Would that have been kind of perceived differently versus shutting everything down and then when nothing's really happening here, and then we're still having to wear a mask?
So
Does
I
that
would
make
like.
sense?
I would like to throw in a huge plug for Asia and Asian culture. So while I love America and I love all the things about America mostly, and I love the fact that I think America is the best country in the world, I do think we can learn from other cultures. And I was reading that, like in South Korea and whatnot, they like you can buy the N95s at 7-Eleven, whatever South Korean 7-Eleven is, because culturally, and I think
7-Eleven.
Japan is this way. Like when someone has a cold, they
Yep.
put on a mask for other
It's
people.
great. I think
When they have allergies, you know, people wear a mask for their allergies. Like just culturally, it's just a thing you do for other people. And then there are some of those countries. So like really early on, I got on the mask bandwagon, the voluntary mask bandwagon. But like there are these videos from some of the European countries where you know they've been wearing the masks and haven't shut anything down. In South Korea, my understanding is they wore the masks, didn't shut anything down, but did some aggressive contact tracing, um, and have just managed to keep going. So yeah, I think you're right. So I think, in my opinion, the way our government handled the mask question was stupid. And I'm going to go to Frank's point of reject the certainty of dummies. And when you have people saying, oh no, you're stupid. A mask won't, that's what they said early. A mask won't work for you. You're stupid. Dude, I can learn how to pinch my nose with a metal jam and do this. And, you know, I can learn these things. How about instead of you're stupid, you can't have the mask, whatever, how about let's educate people, right? So one of the things I was talking to my wife, Jessica, about, who you all know, my lovely wife, I feel like there's been a huge lack of education, right? So Shauna was talking about droplets and aerosolized, and there's all the memes, right? I love the memes. There's the pee meme. Has everybody seen the pee meme? Where it's
where you pee on someone's leg.
well, like yeah, if a dude has no pants on and he pees on you, it's gonna go soak through your pants. You're gonna get wet, right? It's worse if you're not wearing pants and he's not wearing pants. It's getting a little ribbled, but weird. But if the captain of the Starship Loser.
Sorry,
hold on.
sorry.
Hold on. But if you're
I'm not
both
bored
wearing-
with this conversation, by the way. I'm sure I'm sure it's great.
No, but if you're
I'm just getting ready for the next one. That's
okay, I appreciate I appreciate preparedness. But if you're both wearing pants, right, you're not going to get nearly as wet. So it's that whole concept of something's better than nothing. So you see people like with the crochet thing, right? The movie lady, Alyssa Milano, had a crochet, but then people like maybe it was over something. Who knows? Whatever, right? Whatever. But the point is that like there's people who honestly don't know. Right. So one type of like linen, so to say, versus cotton versus jean material versus N95 stuff versus air filter for your furnace, all versus what's that flannel we used to wear in the 90s, right? All these different materials some are going to be better for stopping certain things than others, and I have no idea which. And you see all these like COVID commercials about, wash your hands, whatever. How about putting some facts on there so that, you know, I don't know, so that people make better decisions for themselves and their people around them, based on something that's meaningful, rather than just wear a mask or you're going to kill people. Now, again, we don't have anyone on here. No one was willing. I asked all of my Facebook friends, and I have a lot of Facebook friends. At least probably 10 of them haven't muted me yet. Please come on here and be that guy. I have friends
Maybe
who
that guy doesn't really exist as much as we think.
they post
Yeah.
memes. I see them post the memes, and I even went on their page on the memes they posted this week, and was like, "Hey, would you be willing to come on the YouTube show and back up your meme?" One of them had to work. The other one was like, "I don't really like to debate or whatever." It's like I mean, and Michigan. I mean, how do you explain Michigan and these places where they'll like put you in jail or give you a huge ticket if you're not wearing a mask in the park by yourself? Like
Yeah.
I mean, those
that's
people are out
stupid.
there.
That's crazy.
So,
But also there's the whole issue, and I agree with educating people
yeah.
from the get-go, because especially like Shauna, Gary, like they can tell, like they know how to do it, they know how to put it on and off. But there's also the idea that if people are walking, like it does cause a little bit more, in my opinion, if everybody's walking a mask, there is a little bit more of a sense of panic, and it could be mistaken. But when I meet with people and nobody believes in the mask, it's a very cheerful environment. Everybody's hugging. I've shared tea with people.
So just
during
passing
Corona.
the COVID around. Just pass it
You
around.
know,
Here's a COVID
hey, 4
cocktail,
days
my
go
friend.
by, communion in the mouth, in Virginia. So
Right.
so it is, there is a question of how contagious is it, and how much, even if you're spitting around, are you going to wear a mask for the rest of your life out of a courtesy
Right.
for other people?
Right.
So there is that, but I think Shauna had valid points, from the nurse perspective of how to stay away from it. And I think good things came out of it, where I would appreciate it if you are symptomatic during just flu season, just put a mask on,
Yeah, think about during masks. How many people are hacking behind you and you're like, oh my gosh, right? Please
And they
don't
want
try to shake my hand.
I
Maybe we
know,
could
I
just
think-
abolish
skip
the
hands.
but that's a whole Catholic thing. So okay,
We're not doing a Catholic thing here.
I mean, we can. Do you want to get more Catholic on it?
We can.
I mean, can we?
That's probably
Oh,
not
hold on. I better not,
Yeah.
because in my head I just went to a dark place.
Ooh, really?
A dark, bitterly sarcastic place that isn't going to make anybody forgive me or love me.
Oh.
So you guys, if you guys do it, I'm out on that piece. I'll just sit
Sounds
here
like a sad place.
and make faces. Go ahead if you want to do the Catholic bit.
No, I don't now.
No, yeah,
You
no,
ruined
no.
it.
No, I was just giving that as an example of the people hacking. They could be hacking in
Yes.
Walmart.
Oh,
right?
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where it is.
Yeah, right.
They're-
Somewhere that people deem essential. That
I'm
people
just
deem
gonna sit
essential.
here and eat some popcorn though while you do it.
Oh, you're getting me fired up. I'm holding it down.
But maybe that goes into education, Shauna. It's like you're saying, or even when they were first, like we had that last mass before the quarantine, and I was at the Cannons, and it was wide open, and we're all kind of spacing already. And then I had two people, like with an empty church, they come to the pew right in front of me, and I'm like, "There's the whole church. We should be spreading out." So there is a little bit of the
urinal
education
syndrome.
part.
For you women who don't know what that is, there's memes. I don't know if you've seen them.
What is it?
Where there's a row of urinals and there's one guy on the end doing his business, and the other guy walks in. There's like 80 urinals, and this happens. This is like a thing that this is. I mean, this is the cost we bear as dudes. And he comes down here and just parks right next to you, and then wants to talk. And you're like, this is not the time or the place.
Glad I'm not a man.
Yeah, men have some urinal etiquette.
Etiquette.
Go to the furthest away urinal and just do your thing.
Yeah.
Talk when you're out of the bathroom. Am I right, Frank?
Oh no, absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
This is all true.
I thought he was still using an analogy.
So, I'm
Well, that's
sorry.
great.
Yeah.
I think we built bridges at least.
Yeah. So are we good with the mask thing?
But really, though, I really do question whether these rabid people really exist in large numbers.
Well, I can tell. Let me add one thing to that. I've trained probably 300 nurses over my career, and I follow a good multitude of them on Facebook. And I've watched what they've been posting, and I have some friends that I've directly talked with. Many of them are working COVID units. Some of them are just working EDs, so they're seeing the patients that are coming in. Most of them are in Maryland. Some of them are in Ohio, but most are in Maryland for the most part. I have some West Virginia friends too, but mostly other places. They are all real because they're seeing the effects of it. They're all pro-mask. Now, none of them were willing to come on and talk, but they are very much pro-mask. They say, we don't know. Someone comes in with a heart attack, and we're like, oh, we're good. We're not wearing a mask, and then they test them and they're COVID positive. Why are they COVID positive? Because they've had coagulation issues that have happened because of the COVID, and that's why they've had the heart attack. So we can't, there's kind of a false sense of security sometimes too, because it doesn't affect everybody the same way. And that's the hardest thing with this being a novel virus, is that we don't know how it's going to affect everybody's different, how it's affecting. When you get the flu, you cough, you snot, you have a fever, you have aches. Those are your symptoms. We know you have the flu. We can tell. With COVID, it's so individualized that it's really hard to say, okay, I was sneezing the other day and I had a sore throat and I was like, oh crap, what if I have COVID, right? Because I didn't know. Yeah, Rona, is that you? Right? So because you don't know, because it could affect me that way, and maybe I have this low grade fever and I don't even realize I have it. So I think it's just the fact that there's so many unknowns with it that makes it difficult. And for me, just personally, if for some reason I had it and I didn't realize it, and I'm going into Walmart and I'm shopping, doing my normal thing, and I'm always sneezing anyway because I have allergies and whatever, and I somehow have passed it on to people without knowing, that's more my concern than anything with the mask.
But has that happened though, Shauna? I mean, because Maryland has enforced the masks, and has it helped them reduce their numbers? But we haven't, even with not being super strict about masks in West Virginia, we have not had an outbreak from the Walmart, or Aldi.
No, we don't have the population that they have either there.
Yeah.
But I mean, H1N1, when it was happening, we didn't have any clue how bad it was. Yeah. We had no idea until 5 years down the road, when we look back, we're like, holy crap, a lot of people were sick and a lot of people died. So a lot of times it's retrospective too. So
I just want to, I don't want to miss an opportunity to blast the media. I think this is another, and this, I'm going to go back to one of Frank's points, and it kind of touches on a little bit of what Shauna was saying on the like, people are so certain, so we just reject everything anybody says.
Yeah.
It's definitely a reflex reaction for some of us more than others, right? Who are kind of stubborn and individualistic, and super, super intelligent.
Dunning-Kruger effect. Have you heard of it? Dunning-Kruger? Look it up if you haven't.
Yeah. Okay. but the media, I feel like, misses a great opportunity to stop making people look like idiots and start having a real conversation about data and about what we know and what we don't know, what we think we know, and what we're doing just because we think it's probably the right thing, even if we're not positive. So I mean, the Fauci guy, right? They show him saying this definitely, and then this definitely, and contradicting, and with CDC and all this, and it's like, it's just sport, it's gotcha sport for the media. And I don't know, honestly, I have to admit, I haven't watched all the press conferences, so I don't know if these guys are doing a good job of clarifying and making clear that this is the best we know right now based on what we think we know. This is why we're saying this, as opposed to this is how it is, right? But the media certainly isn't helping get that across. And so all it does is enable people to say, well, he changed his mind, so he's an idiot. I'm not listening to anything he says. That sort of thing. So it doesn't help people have a reasonable conversation about any of this when everything is just, it's an attempt to make Trump look dumb, or to make Trump look right, or to make this guy dumb because he likes this guy. It's just the politicization has really caused a lot of problems, I think, in the discourse.
And I think that's part of the reason. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I think that's what's most frustrating for me. For me, it's not a Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal issue. It's a healthcare issue. And so I've tried to look at it from all viewpoints. And if you notice, I haven't commented on a whole lot of things on Facebook because I'm just taking it all in. And I've admitted, anybody that's called me and said, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know. I can't tell you because it's new. I've never had this experience before. I don't know. And, as the information comes in, the opinions change of the experts too, because new information
Right.
is presented, right?
And these poor people who do study and make a living out of studying and learning and dealing with this stuff, the fear of being wrong and then being just run out of whatever forever must be overwhelming and very frustrating to deal with. One of the things we deal in my line of work, which is computers, sometimes I've worked with college interns and so on, and one of the first things I have to teach these kids when they're between junior and senior year is it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to say, I think this is a way to do something, and then do some testing, some experiments, some development, see if it works. And if you're wrong, you learn something. And if you're right, cool. But I'm a big believer in that you learn more from being wrong than you do from being right. So I don't know, maybe culturally we just need to kind of push back on this crazy insistence that everybody be right all the time and just acknowledge that everyone's doing the best they can.
But I
Theoretically.
think that's where making
That's a
masks
great idea.
optional.
Yeah. So are we?
Real quick, just like to, I thought the perfect example was when we did the rosary at St. James, because I think we were, I don't know, Frank, if you were there, but people were not necessarily all of them wearing masks, but everybody was spread out. And I thought that felt like a very normal and sensible environment. And the people who, and even the people who had masks on weren't like staring around like, why don't you guys have masks? Are you putting me at risk? It was just natural. And so I think that's my vision for like moving forward with West Virginia. We are not, we don't have the population density that Maryland has. We don't have the numbers. We don't have the, and so definitely we're not arguing for what to do in Maryland, but I just think it should be optional. And we just don't have the numbers to back it up.
I don't want to slide too deep into the topic of what kind of fools are we in the way we did our lockdowns, but boy are we fools, and kind of what you're speaking to. But I would go deeper, because I think if you look at a city like Charleston or Wheeling, right, they have a greater population density than say a Charlestown or a Ranson or whatever. So I really think that our reactions should have been, and could still be, if we were if we trusted one another more, be more regional, right? I mean, the whole idea with Flatten the Curve wasn't to just shut it down so that when we open completely back up right away, we all get sick in 3 months at the same time. The idea was to try to manage how many people are sick at any one time so we don't overwhelm the hospitals. And my fear is that we didn't do that. Instead, we shut it all down, and then now we're going to completely open wide back up in some places, and then we're going to be in the same problem we were in before, because we didn't do it in a more reasoned South Korean way of, how about everybody just wears masks, and goes about their business, and see how we do. And like the obsession on how many positive cases, as someone who loves data, I think is stupid. We should be focused on how many hospitalizations are there.
Yep.
That's the thing we should be focused on.
I agree.
Whatever. That life is, I don't control the media.
The number of cases are going to keep rising.
Yes, right. Just because it spreads, it's a virus. It's going to go up. How many people are in the hospital?
HIV has skyrocketed since 1980.
I believe it has.
The number of cases have not gone down.
So anyway, anybody else want to say more about the masks? Or are we good there?
My partner hasn't said anything. What's going on with her? And she's frozen on my screen.
She's frozen.
Sorry.
Uh-oh.
There you go, Blanket Burrito. Do you have anything to say?
I feel like it would just cause more infighting, so I think I'll.
No, cause some infighting. That was the best part of the show.
I thought we were ready for the virtual hug it out, and
we discussed
then
this.
she's like, "No, y'all are dummies."
We discussed this. Infighting is welcome.
Okay, let's do the infighting now.
Pre-show?
Come on, Sophia, let's do it.
Yeah.
So I had a friend who caught COVID by going to a Costco. So I feel like to a certain extent masks can and will help, but there's a certain point where you just gotta say, okay, if you have symptoms, just stay home, or I don't know.
How's your friend doing, by the way?
She's, to the best of my knowledge, she's recovered.
That's good.
But from what I heard, it was not fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
like to a certain extent, like masks can help, but they're not like the end all be all.
Right, but it's something.
So that is
We
why
all
we need
agree
to wear
that
You gotta
full
wash your
body
hands.
masks.
it's something more than nothing, right?
Yeah.
And
But
so,
that's
but
why we
I
need to
guess
wear
we all
full
pretty much
body hazmat
agree.
suits with like the full gas mask. We need
Right.
to wear
Right.
rubber gloves,
Mhm.
carry around hand sanitizer.
No gloves. Just wash your darn hands. Wash your hands.
Here we go. No gloves. Gloves. You're stupid, guys. Gloves won't work for you.
They work. If you put them on and you change them every
Yeah.
time you do something and wash your hands in between, like we do in the hospital, they absolutely will work.
Let me ask
you
you this,
wear them
Shauna.
All
Let
over
me-
the store.
I had
and
this
touch your
brilliant
face.
idea. Because
What?
so people like me who have sensitive, beautiful skin, if we wash our hands too much, they get dry and it's a disaster.
Like this?
Ye-
Hey, can you
uh,
see mine?
A little bit. So if I were to
Yeah.
put gloves on and wash my
Hard
gloved
water.
hands, would that effectively be the same thing? So
No, absolutely
Really?
not. Because the gloves are not made. They're not. They're somewhat porous too, and they don't last forever. Like if I'm in a room for several hours,
Mhm.
guess what? I would change my gloves more than one time. Right?
Oh,
I'd take my
okay.
gloves off, I'd wash them, and I'd put a fresh pair on.
I'm just talking about like if I were to go to the grocery store and wear
Mhm.
gloves, and I do my shopping and I put the gloves, the stuff in there, then I'm on my way to the car and I know I'm going to stop at the gas station. So I use the Purell on the gloves, and then I go to the gas station and I use the same gloves, and
Yeah,
then
you've
I
just
take them off and
compromised
throw
the
them away.
You've just compromised the integrity of those gloves by putting that alcohol solution on there.
They can't handle alcohol? What garbage are these gloves?
No, just wash
That's good
your
to know.
hands. No.
Okay, so you're saying that gloves don't work that way. You can't wash gloves, is what you're telling me.
Oh. You shouldn't. I mean, you shouldn't reuse masks either, though. So I
Well,
would balance.
I thought that if you let it sit for 3 days, everything dies in it and you can use it again.
That's what they're saying now, but I would have
Mhm.
failed a student before for reusing a mask.
Really?
But aren't you just trying to
But
collect
isn't
the
something
droplets,
better than
though?
nothing that if you only have 3 masks to your name, then you do that? Because
It is better than nothing. That is correct. But ideally, we would have had enough PPE for everyone in the hospitals, and then face coverings or surgical masks for the general public would have been ideal, right?
Now, one question though, since you
Laser
guys know,
beams.
so
See,
if
no,
all
this
you're
is where I'm going to
concerned
start to go
about-
off the rails.
But Sean, so if all you're concerned about are the droplets, then why does it matter for the washing or how to use them or taking them on and off?
Well, because if you're going to saturate it, it's no longer going to have integrity, is it? Right.
I
So
don't
if
know.
I'm wearing it all day and I'm coughing in it and snotting in it and everything all day long,
Yeah,
I have now compromised the integrity of it. Right.
Right.
I want to have a
If you're snotting in it, clearly that's
Yeah.
gross.
you
right,
guys should
But if
stay
you're not
home.
doing
Or
that,
even if you're breathing in it for
Just
several hours, if you've had
quarantine.
one on for any amount of time.
okay.
I mean, I'm not a surgical nurse for a reason. I can't stand to breathe in my own air and my slobber and everything. So I never became a surgical nurse.
So let's talk about mask wearing not as a surgical nurse. Let's talk about it as someone going into Walmart to shop.
Right.
So I could wear the mask. I go into Walmart to shop for 20, 30 minutes, wear the mask, throw it in my trunk. 3 days later, I go back to Walmart. I could put it back on because theoretically everything's dead and I haven't snotted in it, right?
Well, ideally you're going to put it in your dashboard and then the sun's going to like kind of treat it. But yeah, again, it's just to hold in your droplets.
Mhm.
If you were wearing it like, okay, so an N95, originally we're going to wear it in a room with someone with TB because we don't want those TB things to come in there, right? But
Mhm.
we're also fit tested for it so that nothing can get around that. You're not fit tested for your N95. So theoretically, it's better than nothing. Is it 100%? Absolutely not. Okay, but it's better than nothing.
But what is 100%, right?
Right, exactly. Well, yeah,
Nothing.
unless you have the
Hazmat
whole
suit.
full body,
Yeah. And we don't
Yeah,
have
or
access
death.
to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess you lost me at something is better than nothing.
Oh, you don't like that approach?
I don't believe the axiom at all.
Really?
I agree
No.
with
Even with the P meme?
I'm sorry, no, I don't. I don't
Nope.
think it's not something that
If
I
I'm
should
not
just like.
contagious,
It's not an axiom you
agree.
can just throw out there and I have to universally accept it. I
Yeah.
think you have to prove it. And as even as Shauna just said, she was talking about sanitizing your mask or how often you can use it. Well, that's what they're saying now. What are they going to say tomorrow? Why is something better than nothing? Am I going to find out? I think I'm going to find out very soon that maybe something isn't better than nothing.
So
Maybe
has
nothing
Shauna
was
just
better.
turned you radically
Certainly, science. The long history of what science has said is good for us,
Yeah.
what we should take, what kind of
That's right.
vitamins we need, what we should eat, has always been on this. Do something rather than nothing.
Yeah.
Turns out maybe that's not even true. Look, You want to talk? Let's talk about. If we were to talk about that in the context of like, let's say dieting trends, right?
Yeah.
You have a massive movement of people who believe fasting. Yes, nothing is sometimes better than something. Right? That's just one example. Everything that nutritionists have been pushing on us for years. For example, this is a diet argument, of course. It's not a mask argument. Has been called into question in the last few years, and has become equally politicized.
So this has to be a fallacy, though, that just because historically people are wrong about stuff, we ignore everything anybody says. That has to be,
that also has to work both ways. That also has to work both ways. So you still can't. You still will not be able to say that I have to unilaterally accept that something is better than nothing.
Well, I'm not saying that you have to, but does it seem unreasonable?
If it is a fallacy, then I'm still right.
But and also, Paul, and one of the points there is we're dealing with West Virginia. We're dealing with a doctor who said the odds of us encountering somebody with COVID positive it's pretty low, you know.
But it's going to go up, right?
So if I go out without a mask, because I may say if he says the odds of me going out and not coming in contact with anybody with corona, then why am I going to wear a mask? You know, so I agree with Frank. I don't think it's better than nothing if I don't believe that I am.
So are you saying that if you go into somewhere where it's not an executive order that you have to do it, I won't call it a law unless it's a law, which I don't think it is in most places. But if so, let's pretend you go to Walmart in Maryland, in Rockville, if there's a Walmart there. I don't know if they have Walmart.
Or Chipotle.
Or whatever. So are you saying then you just wouldn't wear one? Even though there's a lot more population density and more sick people? But theoretically.
Well, I would wear it if that's the rule in Maryland. Is that what you're saying? If it's the rule, it's like St. James.
No, if it's not, even if it's not the rule, even if they're just recommending it. Is there no situation where you would wear it?
Well, if I go into, let's say, if I go into Maryland and they're all wearing masks, and I have not been wearing a mask, I have been quarantined. I've been around a very small circle of people. Some of them are high risk that if I was a carrier, that I would probably get them sick. I would absolutely not wear a mask, and I would not be concerned about getting them sick because I'm not the odds of me being a carrier, especially from West Virginia. I'm not coming from New York. I'm not coming from Wuhan. I mean, I'm coming from a place where there's one death, and they said 90% of the cases are recovering. It's mild. So I am not concerned about getting other people sick.
And I would like to answer that also because I just want to make it clear. And I know I already said this, but I just want to be completely crystal clear. The reason that I refuse to wear a mask, if I thought I was in any way putting anyone in danger, I absolutely would wear a mask.
I agree.
And
I agree.
You know, our family was in a situation where we thought we had COVID very early on in this thing in early March, and we sort of locked down. Even before, the reason I wasn't at that last mass, Angie, was because we had already started to lock down, and we took a lot of precautions and stayed home and didn't have any contact with anybody.
Smart.
And so we tried to be very conscientious about it. The last thing I want to do is get somebody sick. But absolutely. I also have to keep my own sanity through this thing, and I have to really kind of be true to who I am. And I really refuse to do this for reasons that are very personal. But I think most of the things that I'm saying here are just sort of I think I'm just playing around, to be honest, just to take this position.
Gotta be
quite honestly, I don't want anyone to get sick. And if I honestly thought that it was going to prevent someone from getting sick, you bet I would wear it.
We have 10 minutes again.
That's true. Yes.
I thought we were done with masks. And now it's 10 minutes again.
Ago.
All right, should we just throw this horse in the incinerator and consider it beaten?
This is great.
Can we do a big virtual hug and say that we all still love each other?
Kumbaya.
Oh, hugs. I love you.
We still love each other. Yeah, right. Don't cough on me though.
Okay,
so I'm going to tune in on YouTube since I'm part of the Star Wars. Great chatting with you guys.
Your sound went wonky to me, but
that's
okay.
She sounds like a robot. We're getting ready for Star Trek.
Yeah. So do we want to just jump out and back in again since we've only got 9 minutes?
Let's do it.
Well, I'm jumping out completely. Adios, folks.
Oh no! You're not
like
going to take a side on the important topic?
I'm going to watch.
I know nothing about Star Wars or Star Trek.
Okay. All right. Well. Okay. Neither do Star Trek fans. All right, so all right, let's jump
Yes.
out and then we'll jump right back in.
Okay.
Ready, set, go. Okay. Let me check my app here. Yep, okay, I'm capturing sound. We have the stream and the sound back. I'm gonna get better at this, or I'm just gonna shell out a little bit of money and not be a cheapskate. I didn't know this was gonna well, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
I
feel
paid for it recently too.
I failed you
It's
all.
a pretty good service. I mean, I really
Yeah,
do like it.
it's
It's pretty it's a pretty elegant service.
it's not bad. It could
Yeah.
be better or worse. Okay.
Sure, sure, sure.
Let me get the board of truth and happiness and things
That is
erased
a great name.
and ready for the next phase of the epic battle. So I'm gonna go ST for Star Trek on my left because Star Trek fans are communists, and I don't like communists, and I'm gonna go Star Wars. Actually, I like some communists. I don't. Well, it's a whole story. We'll do a topic someday. All right. So we have Star Trek and Star Wars. Yes. Okay. Now.
Not a communist.
Well. Okay.
I feel like you're the exception rather than the rule.
Yeah. Yeah,
No
so I like communists because they're harmless and they just want to be left alone and do their thing. I don't like Stalin government communists because they want to force it on you.
I did spend
That's
some
my
time on a
distinction.
communist.
You know, I like the granola hippies more than like the
I have been known to associate with such persons.
yeah, there you go. I've been known to be one, sort of. Not really. Not a granola hippie, but like not really a commune person either. I'm too lazy for a commune. I'm like most communists. I'm too lazy. Okay, we'll get off that topic for a sec. All right, are we ready? Do we want to roll for initiative? We'll do the number thing again. Number
You're
one.
not rolling a D20?
I should have brought a D20. So
you have an app? All right.
Not in like in a pinch.
All right. Do the number thing. Or
I'm gonna do
else.
a number thing 1 through 10. Both of you shout out a number at once. And to make this just so that nobody doubts my sincerity, honesty, and so on, let me find a sticky. I'm a big sticky fanatic that I have not written on. I'm gonna write the number on it, and then I will hold it up after you guys both shout out. So I'm writing the number. Neither of you know what the number is. I have the number here.
Okay.
All right, ready, set, yell.
2.
What did you guys say?
I said 2.
2 and 1. Star Trek, you have the initiative. All right, Frank, hit us with your nonsense.
Hit us with your nonsense. Okay. Well, with that biased opening, as the I want to just voice my objections with the moderator for this whole thing has been biased from the
Overruled.
um, and I want to begin by saying that these two are unfairly compared. So the whole I question the premise, and I'll tell you the reason.
Yeah.
The genres could not be more different. Besides taking place in space, these really are two very different genres. You know, there's a really good podcast that I listen to. I don't know these people, but I guess I'll plug them anyway.
Yeah, plug them.
It's called Sword and Laser, and they talk about fantasy and sci-fi fiction, published fiction, and the sword part is the fantasy piece, and the laser part is they talk about sci-fi, and they often make this comparison. And I was listening to that podcast once, and they made a really good point that you have on the fantasy side, you have like Tolkien, and it sort of looms large over everything, and then on the sci-fi side, you have just about just a zillion things under the sun. And when you stop and look at Star Wars is very much a fantasy story. You have swords, um, you have a lot of you have magic. You have a lot of the elements that you have in Star Wars. And then if you actually took the Tolkien analogy even further, and you sort of map the beats of the New Hope, for example, the first and most famous of the Star Wars, you could find yourself actually saying, well, yeah, you know what, beat for beat, this is almost the same story. You have the hero going off to with this great power. He goes even into something like Moria, where his Gandalf, Obi-Wan Kenobi, dies, and he even gets attacked by an octopus, right? I mean, so it's like, it's very much like, in that vein. Whereas Star Trek is a science fiction story. It's looking at what's possible. Star Wars is set in the past. Star Trek has always been set in the future. Like good sci-fi is typically often set in the future. It's about technology. It's about moral issues that are around our use of technology and what it's going to do to us, who we're going to be in the future, who we want to be, who we should be, and what are the consequences of those things. That's what makes science fiction fun. And Star Trek is really, for mainstream science fiction, is one of the best at doing that. Full disclosure, I like Star Wars. I had tons of Star Wars toys as a kid. But I think modern Star Wars is pretty darn stupid.
Wow.
And I just don't. I can't really suffer through it. I kind of checked out after the Phantom Menace, to be quite honest, which was a Star Wars story about a tax dispute. It was like watching C-SPAN, and that was just about the most boring thing I could possibly stomach. So I made a lot of different points. They've all been boiled down to Star Wars is stupid by the biased moderator. That's fine. I do think the genres are unfairly compared. If you do compare them, I think you need to compare them in the sense of, do they deliver on really good, solid storytelling? Because otherwise, I just don't think it's a fair comparison. It really is a fantasy story versus a sci-fi story, and I don't think that's...
So are you saying that Star Trek delivers a better story?
I think... So here's the other problem with that. So the other point is really Star Wars typically is delivered in an anthology format. So Star Trek has a lot more leeway to tell a different story every week, and some of those are hit, and some of those are really bad misses, right? But the really good ones are, in my opinion, really really good. And the bad ones, unfortunately, are really bad. Star Wars is sort of slavishly stuck into its own story. There's a few examples where it tries to branch off, and I think that like The Mandalorian and a number of other things are really good examples of that. But especially the original series and the Next Generation with Star Trek, these were anthologies that sometimes would dip back into some sort of main storyline thread that was going through the series, but for the most part, they weren't stuck on that, so they could tell a different story every week. And they just had a lot more. They had a lot more flexibility to do that and tell stories in their universe. Where Star Wars is, for the most part, where you've seen the most of that in Star Wars has been like in the video games, right? They've released some really interesting stories in the video games, like Knights of the Old Republic and some other cool stuff like that. But with the movies, they've really had to kind of slavishly, for the most part, stick to the main storyline, and I think that's been to their detriment.
Spoken like a true Starfleet officer. That was just the most disappointing, non-combative, trying to understand the alien civilization without interfering speech.
I did say it was stupid.
Oh, yes, you did, Worf. That was your inner Worf coming out. Okay, blanket burrito, crush
I,
him.
I think
Okay.
I think Darth Vader as a whiny teenager is probably one of the dumbest moves you could possibly make for a franchise.
Okay.
Crush him.
So I do agree that Star
Force
Wars
choke him.
is more of a fantasy story. So Star Wars is more like space fantasy, while Star Trek is true sci-fi. I'm completely on board with that. And the whole thing with the original, with the New Hope being very similar to the Lord of the Rings, that's a story archetype called the hero's journey. A lot of traditional stories use that. Um, and yeah, there's nothing to say about that. It's the hero's journey. So
With an octopus.
yeah.
Okay, I'm just saying.
So
I mean, there's no octopus in the Joseph Campbell
Oh,
hero's journey. So.
Joseph Campbell.
so because the series are so different. Oh, there's a truck coming by. Sorry.
It's a bad television, blanket burrito.
That's good. No, it's
Pure
riveting.
cinema.
I love it.
So,
Riveting.
so because the series are so different, usually I like to try to compare them in their themes and what they're trying to say in the different media that they present. So what are the hello? So
Tell that person to put a mask on right now.
so like what are the themes that the stories present, and how are the different how are the different protagonists presented based on their views and stuff like that. So
Caw!
sorry.
It's a Minoc, probably.
Yeah. But
Minoc is a dumb name.
Oh, you're killing
Dumb
me.
it's a
sounding
great
name.
name. What are you talking about? So
Like the term Klingon wasn't invented by a 12-year-old boy.
so like for
The most
example with the
awesome 12-year-old
prequels.
boy who ever lived.
Sorry. Go
What a
ahead,
Yeah,
Sophia.
sorry.
Oh,
So with
sorry.
the prequels, like a lot of the people hate it because it goes so in depth with the politics and everything. But I think it's a really interesting way of setting up the conflict of, Palpatine is playing both sides of the war. He's driving, he's playing, he's behind both the separatists and the Republic. So the theme of that is that, politics is never black and white, which I completely agree with. So I think a lot of the themes that are presented by Star Wars are very good, and I don't know about Star Trek, but
Okay.
See, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to jump in a little bit.
Yeah.
To the opening argument here. I'm gonna. So I was telling Captain Swerda that I had prepared a little bit for about 15 minutes today.
oh dear.
And so I wanted to. I'm gonna drop a couple points on the board, and then I'm gonna attempt to illustrate them. All right. Number 3. Better ships. All right. Number 4.
I disagree with you there too, and I'll tell you
I can
why.
prove it,
I'll
though.
tell you why when you're done.
All right. Good versus evil. Simple is better. Number 5. I have an article that has like 19 reasons. I'll scroll on the screen share in a second. And number 6, merch, way better. Number 7,
Star Wars
no
land.
whales. And I know,
Well,
I know
well,
that you can point
there
to
are
the
the
Ewok
hyperspace
Christmas
whales from.
special, and you
There are
can.
the hyperspace whales from Rebels, but
Okay, well, but those weren't bad whales. Those weren't Earth
okay.
whales. So,
Okay.
so that's so the search for Spock. You can take every bad thing Star Wars ever did, and I'll take it over. It was Search for Spock, I believe, with the whales.
No, it was not. It was Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home. It was the Search for Spock.
Voyage Home. Voyage
The
Home.
Search for Spock is with Doc Brown from Back to the Future as the.
Oh,
Klingon
I like
commander.
him.
Yes, he was great.
Yeah. The other one. What was the other one I was going to throw up there? It'll come to me. Merch, which includes toys.
Star Wars Land. Does Star Trek have a theme park?
I don't know.
No, it
Probably
doesn't.
not. Okay,
No.
theme park. Bam. Right.
Not that I'm aware of it.
There's going to be
You know, it
more.
probably does somewhere, but I'm not aware of it.
There's going to be more, but I would like first. Let's hit the ships. This is where I'm going to hit the screen share business. So I'm going to go share, and I'm going to go with this. No, not that desktop. I want to pick the app. Bam, bam. All right, can you all see this?
Whoa,
Yes.
that's a lot of
This
shit.
is Frank's probably familiar with this
Yes.
deviant art poster thing.
Yes.
Now, with my resolution, I can't really get all the way in to see all the names really well, but I can basically show you that I had found Star Trek, dinky, weak little sissy Star Trek ships. Here's like, I believe over here, that looks like an Enterprise, one of the variants of the Enterprise. And there's some other, and you know what? We'll just look at here. Here's a Borg cube, right? That looks impressive to a sissy,
So
right?
majestic.
And now we're gonna go look up here. This is the Super Star Destroyer, the executor that was Lord Vader's in Return of the Jedi, I believe, right? So this is a regular. These are regular Star Destroyers and Republic cruisers and so on. So I mean,
And
these
then
would just hammer, annihilate, destroy. Even the Borg cube would
The
have no
black-
chance against the onslaught of the Galactic Empire.
The
Wait a
big
minute.
black
Wait a minute.
Star Destroyer above the Super Star Destroyer. I forget what it's called, but it's got like a Death Star turbo laser at the front that can take out entire fleets.
Right?
So if that's not
Wait a
awesome,
minute.
I don't know.
Wait a
Yeah.
minute.
I mean, there's
Is this a
there's no-
Superman versus
Yes.
Batman? Could Superman beat up Batman debate?
There's
I mean, like,
certainly an element
is
to
that
that,
what we're
and
doing here?
I think Star
I think
Wars
this is beneath us.
Yeah. All right, now the next one, right?
No, but wait. Do I get
Yeah.
to respond?
Okay, you want to go? Yeah, you can respond. Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I like the Star Wars ships. I think they're very cool.
Yeah.
If we're talking about whether or not these, if these ships were somehow to fight in their respective
Oh yes.
power, could they beat each other? I don't know. I think that's a dumb
I do.
question. I think it's a silly question. What's better is I'm telling a story, and how does the design serve the story? I have a big problem with Star Wars ships, especially at this point where you have this ridiculous proliferation of ships. I can't keep them straight anymore.
It's
I
called
need
a
a
navy.
poster like this to keep them straight.
How does the Galactic
Whereas-
Federation have so few
Whereas what the Star Trek ships, especially the Federation ships, see the Star Trek and the Next Generation has done this very well, and the original series folks did this very well, but the Next Generation really did a great job with this, in that it is very much founded in 19th century ocean-going kind of fiction, and very
Like
much with Horatio Hornblower and that kind of a series. And in fact, if you ever watch Star Trek 2, if you ever watch the director's commentary, they'll talk extensively about Horatio Hornblower and the influence of Horatio Hornblower stories in Master and Commander and a number of those other kinds of stories about ocean-going vessels as being huge influences in the evolution of Star Trek, and especially again the Wrath of Khan, which I think is one of the best. Is very much influenced on Horatio Hornblower. In fact, one of the Horatio Hornblower stories is another one where, if I were to pick on it, I would say how it mapped almost beat for beat to that Horatio Hornblower story. And they really basically kind of steal it and put it in space. But what they've also done is they've taken those 19th century sailing ships and 18th century sailing ships and put them in a sci-fi, and they're very much like that with these tall decks and these kind of tall. They sort of evoke that tall ship sort of look. So they're very specifically designed, and I think in that sense they deserve a big pat on the back because they've done a really neat thing in doing that. I think, and it serves the story, and it serves kind of the underlying sort of mojo that makes everything work.
So because they are steampunk, they are better.
They're not. How are they steampunk? I mean, they're not.
A
I mean,
lot
it's
of
not like they
steampunk-
have giant tubes
So when
coming
you're,
out of them
when
designed
you're
by
describing
dwarves.
it to me like the 19th century like ships, it's based off of that. I just immediately thought of steampunk.
No,
No,
Star,
because
Star Trek ships are little.
It's more
sissy
ocean going, right? I mean, they're out
exploration
exploring. It's like, they're out
Mhm.
exploring the universe the way explorers were exploring the seas. I mean,
What
it's
ab- what about
it's
the
carrying
Bismarck?
on in that tradition, right?
And the Missouri, what are the great battleships? Like the Star Trek ships are just dinky little nonsense. So like they're more like submarines, which are, I mean, I don't want to put down any submarine people. I know some submarine people. Submarines are great, but that's
And
not
some
your
of the
whole
actually,
navy.
and some of my
That's
favorite
much-
Star Trek episodes are very much like little mini submarine movies, in fact, which I
Well,
think are actually
but
a
what
lot of
about
fun.
the great big aircraft carriers and all the other warships of sea? How do you go to war with the Klingon Empire with just a couple subs and you can't even cloak and they can? Like,
But
what are we doing?
you
We're
don't see a lot of. It's not really about. It's not about the warfare as much. At least the first couple series are not about the warfare as much as they are about exploration. And again, the soul of the series is not Star Wars, which is about
You're right.
war.
You're right.
It really is about exploration. And
And that proves
the
that
soul
Star
of,
Trek would just be conquered by the Empire with no problem.
if that is the debate, then I didn't realize that was the debate.
Well,
I thought we were going to have
that's one
something a little bit
element.
more
That's
thoughtful.
one element. So I win that point. Then you're saying that one point.
Yeah, I mean, I
I'm
think
thinking
Mighty
right.
Mouse probably would probably lose to Superman also.
Better ships. I win that debate. Okay.
With the bias moderation and the way you framed it, yes, you have.
Okay, cool. All right, I'll take that.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Okay. The next one is merch. Okay.
I can't even argue this.
Look at these glorious toys that are just amazing. And this isn't even like a real merchandise lightsaber. It's just a knockoff lightsaber thing that people
can't
made
argue any of
because
this.
they're so awesome.
Star Trek merchandise is terrible. However,
Look at this. Look at these toys. I threw a Robotech one in here because Robotech.
I had that mug, by the way, that Gamorrean guard mug. I had
Yes,
that as a kid.
it's glorious. So I mean, how about Pez dispensers? Like
I have
Pez dispensers. Hold on,
I
let
have
me
a
turn off the
TIE
screen
fighter
share.
that has the Nerf gun attached, so I can fire
Nice.
it.
All right,
So if that
look
doesn't
at this
speak to
too.
raising merchandise, I don't know what does.
Look at these Pez dispensers. These are probably like 1,000 years old and would kill people, and they're
Sure.
still in the plastic because I love them so much. So I've got more, right? So merch. I win merch, right, Frank?
Well, you win merch. However, I let you win it with an asterisk because
Okay. All right.
I think we should consider video games. Now,
I
Star
win
Wars
on
has,
video games.
Star
Okay,
Wars
let's
has.
do this.
You're talking about merch and toys. How is it?
Yeah.
Why do video games not fall into that?
Star Wars wins
Okay,
on video games
what
too,
about
though.
yeah, Republic
Yeah, they win
Commando,
on video
Battlefront
games.
2, Knights of
However,
the Old Republic,
however,
Old Republic,
Jedi Outcast. Yeah, go ahead.
however,
Yeah.
however,
Fallen Order.
Yeah.
every single bridge simulator that has ever been produced
Yes, and they are fun.
has been based and solely on the bridge simulator on the bridge mojo of a Star Trek show. Now, the reason I bring that up is that exact model is being used in the theme park that you're about to throw in my face as well. The Millennium Falcon at the Star Wars the Millennium Falcon at the Star Wars Experience, whatever the heck it's called, I forget what it is now.
Yeah.
Smuggler's
Galaxy's
Run.
Uh-huh.
Smuggler's Run is a bridge simulator, and they lifted it directly from the bridge simulations, all of which owe their lineage to Star Trek. So you would not have that ride, you would not have that format, and they would not have even used that kind of software on Smuggler's Run.
I will give you the tiny but still very
I
fun
gotta get something.
niche
All right,
of bridge simulators.
I gotta get
Have
something.
that. All right. Oh, you get that. All right. Let's jump on to. Oh, that should say reasons. That's not a very good R. But before I do that, I just want to kick merch for a few more minutes. All right. I'm just gonna kick it a little bit more. Is there this for Star Trek?
Oh yeah, I forgot about those.
I don't think.
Whoa, wait a minute now.
I don't think Star Trek.
There's Shakespeare in the original Klingon. If we want to get.
You know what? Here, I'm going to give you another one. I'm glad we're doing this. Star Trek has really better defined nerdy languages.
Well,
I mean, there are people who literally speak Klingon. Literally speak.
Huttese is a joke.
I mean, we have to give Star Trek the.
well, I did hear about like this couple. They met at a Comic-Con, and one of them was from like France, and the other one was from like South America. They didn't know each other's languages, so for the first months of them dating, they just spoke Klingon.
That's awesome.
Right. I mean, we have to give the Klingon language some huge props. But I also
there
just
are
want
like Star Wars languages that people do learn, like Mandoa, or what were some of the other ones? I forget, but.
I have an adult Star Wars coloring book.
You could just whine all the time, and then you'll sound just like Darth Vader.
But wait, there's more.
I mean, Anakin Skywalker.
Does Star Trek have adult pop-up books?
Probably.
that are so fancy that you wouldn't let little kids play with it? Does Star Trek even have this kind of thing?
They probably do. I just don't happen to own these things.
So I'm just wait. There's more. There's more. When I was a wee lad, my buddy, I doubt that I grew up with. I doubt he's watching. Who knows? Maybe he is. Adrian. I'll give a big shout out to Adrian, who lives in Florida now. He gave me this at a birthday party when I was probably like 10. You know what this is?
It's like something I used to have.
This is incredible art that I have saved since the 80s. We're talking about just glorious, beautiful
That looks like something I used to have too.
art.
Yeah.
Right? Does Star
Are
Trek
those
have that?
the Ralph McQuarrie concept
Yes, it
art?
does.
No, it doesn't. Okay, maybe it does. But I have it right here.
Yeah.
There's
well,
more. This mouse pad. This is the greatest mouse pad in the history of the universe.
is
Look
that
at
one of
image.
those? If like you turn it, will it will he look like he's like whining and crying
No,
about
it's
Panda Bear
just
or whatever her name is?
a beautiful, incredible mouse pad.
My apologies to Robot
It's
Chicken.
just beautiful. You see, I mean,
Mhm.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
And that's look at this. Does Star Trek have beverages?
It might.
Yeah, but we don't even know because we just don't know. I mean, okay, I beat merch to death, right?
So yeah, you win on
Star
merch.
Trek
I don't know
has
what to tell
awesome
you.
Lego
All right.
sets.
I've got my 19 reasons now I want to do a screen share. So
Oh
this
my God.
is going to be too good. You're going to love this.
I'm sure I will.
Here it is. I'm going to do this little window. Bam. All right, can we see this? This is on Business Insider. 19 reasons why Star Wars is better than Star Trek. Everybody see this? Now, Sophia, close your eyes. The first reason, Carrie Fisher in a gold bikini chained to a fat alien. Frank, you can't beat me on this. I mean, you just can't win.
Yeah, actually, I think I
this is
can. Like,
iconic.
I think I can. That in 1983, when I was like, how old was I in 1983? Like 9 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
That the mainstream like kids entertainment was basically like showing me like soft S&M. So yeah, actually, I do kind of have a little bit of a problem. with
Okay.
that.
All right. Let's go on to number 18.
Okay.
Video games. We already touched on the video games, right?
I can't argue about video games.
Exactly.
All
Except for bridge simulators.
How about this one? Kirk doesn't know how to speak. This one's just mean. But here you go. There's that one. How about 16? The Millennium Falcon.
No,
You don't have a
you've
Millennium
got one. Right now you have one, by the way, so far. You have video games.
How about better music?
Wait, go back to the
John
other one. Go back-
Williams in the Star Wars
Whoa,
music?
wait. Go back
Yeah.
to the other one. Go
All
back to the other one for a second.
Millennium
What is this?
Falcon? This is the
It's a
Millennium
piece of
Falcon.
junk.
It's a piece of junk that saves the galaxy. I
I
mean,
kind of agree
this
that
is
it
a
is a bit
quintessential story of
overblown.
American freedom.
Sorry,
Right,
I was
we didn't
I was
have
making a joke.
great technology and help from the Vulcans to beat the British. We had pieces of junk and farmers and hunters and colonists who were like, we're going to throw off the yoke of imperial English oppression.
Okay,
This
I
is
have
my
to give you this one,
story.
even though it's stupid.
Okay.
It's true. It's just a dumb.
How about John Williams? You guys didn't have John Williams, did you?
So they are right. As I see this article, I
Yeah.
would have thrown the Wrath of Khan up in front of you because that score is fantastic.
And this one even acknowledges
Yeah,
the Wrath of Khan was
did
good.
say that. No, there's nothing.
But that's
else
the only
other
one.
than it 'cause he's
The only one.
Music.
Right?
The music in Star Wars actually makes up in so many ways for the ridiculous script.
How about the physics? Blah blah. We'll just skip that.
Whoa,
Lightsabers.
whoa. Go back.
Lightsabers.
Go back a second.
They're movies. It's fun. Why do we care about physics?
This is the
It's
dumbest
a
thing
movie
ever.
in space. Who cares?
Lightsabers.
You don't get that one. That's just ridiculous.
You don't have lightsabers.
We don't need lightsabers. They're stupid.
No,
What
they
could be more
aren't.
stupid?
Lightsabers are majestic and awesome.
They
Explain
are.
to me why you need a little lightsaber with the little, especially like with the what is the thing like with like sticks out like it's like the hand guard. but
Oh,
it's
the
a-
Darth Maul lightsaber.
No,
mean-
the cross guard. The cross guard
Yeah.
is to prevent people from
Yeah, it's like a sword.
slicing your hand off.
Like a
Right,
sword.
but you could accidentally slice your own hand off if you were to like just
Well,
like choke up a
that's
little.
why only Jedi and Sith lords wield them
Nice.
because they're experts.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
All right.
Fine. You
not
got
every other,
lightsabers, I
Joe
guess.
Schmo
We
can
have
wield.
Yoda.
Okay. This is a terrible list.
The worst Star Wars
It's
movie.
a terrible list.
Phantom
Well, we
Menace
have
is still
phasers.
better. Actually,
right?
I like the
Oh,
final.
by the way, we have cell
I,
phones.
I like the Final Frontier, but the
Wait,
Voyage.
go
Home is
back.
still better.
Wait a minute. What is this? The worst Star Wars
I'm
movie,
gonna
The
put it
Phantom
back in.
Menace, was better than the worst Star Trek movies. Yeah, okay, that's probably true. Okay,
Okay.
I got that one. The
Boba
Final
Fett.
Frontier is horrible.
You don't
You
have
like
Boba
that
Fett.
one? The one that like
Or
the guy who likes all the
Mandalorians
feelings
as
with
a
all the feelings.
species.
Isn't the final?
The Phantom Frontier is the one with the
Which one?
guy with Spock's half brother.
Oh yeah, no, that one's
So
garbage.
stupid.
Malik or whatever. No, I like the Undiscovered Country. That one didn't
No,
get a
that
lot.
one's fun. That one's
I
fun.
love
It
the
has
Cold
Christopher
War.
Plummer in it. He's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. Okay.
David Warner.
How about Boba Fett? You don't have Boba Fett. You get Geordi with a visor.
You guys had to do so much to rehabilitate Boba Fett because his treatment was just stupid.
It was, but I mean,
not only killing off the coolest character, right? you throw him into the big like stupid like mouth
the Sarlacc
thing,
pit. Yeah.
and then he burps.
Well, but okay, but
That's just
if you
acid.
read the expanded universe, which I still believe is canon,
Yeah,
I
you
don't
have to
care.
rehabilitate it with a
I-
bunch of
Well, and
nonsense.
I don't
Boba
care
Fett
what
is probably-
Lucas said when he sold out to Disney.
I
The
gotta go
expanded
read
universe is
500
canon.
books just to make it cool.
He
Well,
shot
and
his
Boba
way
Fett's
out of
probably
the
gonna
Sarlacc's
appear-
belly with concussion grenades.
Yeah, okay.
All
Boba
right.
Fett's probably gonna appear in the Mandalorian season 2, so it probably
hope
is
so.
canon that he survived.
Oh,
not
man,
only
we're
not
down
only
to
did the
10 minutes
Sarlacc
again.
pit, not only did the Sarlacc pit burp,
I gotta
but
go
then
fast.
later in the movie you get a Tarzan scream. You
I gotta go
get
fast.
literally a Tarzan scream from Chewbacca.
Yeah.
How dumb that movie is.
Is my is it updating? Do you guys see the Han Solo now?
Not
No,
yet.
I do not see the Han Solo.
Uh-oh, hang on. What's it doing to me? Stop being bad to me. Stupid thing. So it's squawking at me about 10 minutes again.
Yeah, see that.
Man, it's killing me. Let me stop screen share. I'll just read you the rest real quick.
Okay.
Okay. So we've got Han Solo, yeah. A long time. Oh, the opening crawl, whatever. R2D2 C3, but really R2D2. Better special effects, at least
We
back
have
in the old
Worf's
days.
son. We have Alexander and Will Wheaton.
The Empire is scarier
Will
than any
Wheaton.
Star Trek antagonist, right?
No. First of all, you should know this better than anybody. Like, okay, let me give you an example, first of all.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I say that the Borg are scarier because they are the collective. They are scary communists.
Because they're commies. Yeah, you're right.
Absolutely. So you of all the people who are so anti-communist should appreciate that.
I give you
Now,
some credit on the
secondly,
board.
so
what's worse?
No, wait,
commies or
wait.
fascists?
Let me finish my point because
Yeah.
the next point is Darth Vader. Yes, he started off as a great villain. In the very beginning of the movie, he chokes a dude, he kills a bunch of people.
Yes, he does.
He sets up everyone on the ship to be murdered. Then he blows up a planet. That's
Yes.
pretty awesome, and I
That
give
is
you that.
awesome.
However, let's fast forward to the Phantom Menace. Darth Maul. What did he do? He just
Well,
walks around looking scary every now and then.
Yeah.
He goes and hits a few people with a lightsaber
You know
at
what,
the very
though?
end.
Yeah,
And
but
I'm
if
just
you watch
supposed to
the
think he's a
Women
villain
love
because he's
him.
got horns and
Maul is
he's
one of the
got some
best
red on his
villains.
face.
Women love
That's
Ray Park.
ridiculous.
They loved him, and he
It's
could like
ridiculous.
flip in things and do
He's
cool
a-
moves.
And Star Wars continually thinks they can just make a dude look like scary and
Yeah.
creepy, and he can be evil.
And I will buy
the
it
most
every
recent
time.
villain. The most recent villain basically is just a guy who lived in his basement, and now he's just like sort of like an angry loner.
Okay, wait, hold on.
It's terrible.
I gotta keep going because we only
It's
have 7
awful.
minutes.
Go. Go.
Star Trek: The Next Generation subjected viewers to having to watch Tasha Yar and Wesley Crusher.
All right, I'll give you Tasha Yar.
All right.
Wesley grows on you.
TIE fighters, X-Wings,
Shut up,
we already covered the ships. The Force is cool.
No, it's
It is.
not.
Don't hate on midichlorians. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's
I
a
have
Force
to.
isn't
recognized
cool.
religion in England.
Wait, go back to the first one before the Force.
No, before the Force. The ships. But this is specifically TIE fighters and X-Wings are pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, the Force. How about, and finally, Darth Vader.
The
Darth Vader.
whiny Darth Vader or the cool Darth Vader who blows up
The
planets?
totally realistic transition from whiny,
Yeah.
obnoxious teenager into mass murderer, totally self-focused and centered, evil guy who kills younglings.
I mean, look, I don't
I mean,
like
this
sand
is a
either.
story of fallen man.
Actually, I do kind of like sand. I like going to the beach.
But it's
gets
coarse and rough and
everywhere.
irritating, and it
It
gets
is.
everywhere.
Yes, it does.
It does.
So
It's
so how many of those reasons are you gonna give me? There were 19. You're gonna give me 15?
I can't remember. I gave you like 2, maybe 3.
Oh, I'm gonna write 15 and that you agreed to it. Okay. 15 reasons.
No.
All right, no whales.
So, in
I win that
fairness, we
one.
have the same stupid mind tricks. Like you have Jedi
Theme
mind
parks.
tricks, we have stupid mind melds.
And here's the one that I'd forgotten before, and we only have 6 minutes left. I really wanted to hit this one.
Okay.
No time travel gimmicks.
Yes.
Okay.
I am sick and tired of sci-fi falling
Me
back
too.
on time travel nonsense.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, Star Wars has managed not to go down that road thus far, and I sure hope they stay that way. I'm just
Yeah, I
tired
hate
of
that
it.
stuff too. I agree with. I can't.
Other than Back
argue
to
with
the
that one.
Future, they should just cut it out.
Yeah, pretty much, and that's even only Back to the Future 1.
Yeah. Now that said, I love the reboots. I like Zachary
I
Quinto
want
and all
to. There's
those
a lot of
guys.
things I like about them. Yeah, I'm really a big fan of the next generation and of the original series. I
Well,
find the rest wanting.
so I'll say that the reboot movies, I like them, and I actually appreciate that they did a multiverse rather than just it's different now. So
I thought it was a cool
I think
idea.
they did it well, but I'm still bitter that they did it.
Well, I thought it was a cool idea. I mean, I think it's just again, I think Star Trek is at its best one
Mhm.
when it's about exploration, and the second movie was like entirely on Earth, or like trying to defend Earth. It's like no, go out and like find monsters and weird stuff.
Now,
I want you out exploring,
so
But then the second reason, the second thing that they're really the best at is, and this is why you always have a Vulcan or you have Data or you have some other kind of character like that to be sort of a sounding board for what's great about being human. It's so much about, at least again, the first 2 series are so much about what is it about us with all of our problems, and they're very good at acknowledging, yeah, we're screwed up in all these different ways, and isn't it magnificent? Is always the conclusion, and I love that.
it's like
I
It's
mean,
a
that's
Wonderful Life.
it really is. When it's at its best. Now, I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's always at its best. You can point to any, that's what's so much fun about this. I actually love Star Wars. I think Star Wars is a great time.
And I love Star Trek. I'm one of the 3 people who like Enterprise. I love the
You love the
early
opening scene,
exploration.
the opening theme song.
It grew on me
Really?
cover your ears, Sophia. There's an old joke about. Well, I won't say it, but yeah, it's like it just grows on you in a warm, comforting way.
Like mold.
Actually, Mary, how old is Mary? What, 9, 10, 11? I don't remember. So Mary loves Enterprise. She and I like to watch Enterprise together. And
I
she
love Scott
giggles-
Bakula. I think he's
She
fantastic.
giggles at the whole business with what's the Klingon, the Vulcan lady's name, and the trip is like all guys the hots for her and
Okay,
everything.
I've only seen a few episodes. I love Scott Bakula. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Actually.
I mean, we're still in season 1, but I love. I need to watch it with her this week. I love Enterprise, so I'm one of 3 people. And
Well, it got a bad rap. I thought Scott Bakula was such a great choice, and I was sorry to hear that it didn't work out. But I
like the extra layer about like the early issues with the Vulcans and how do we trust them? Do we not trust? Yeah, it's very realistic to me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no,
anyway,
I agree.
I think we've proven that Star Wars clearly has more check marks.
Well, I think that was a foregone conclusion before we got into this call. But, okay.
But I think in the interest of love and peace and harmony, we can have a virtual sci-fi hug where we all admit that we like all of them in their own ways. Like there's all integral parts of our culture.
I will agree to that with the caveat that this was a completely biased discussion.
But I guess what I'm saying is that while Star Trek clearly wins, you can still be part of that victory. No, wait, Star Wars wins. Did I say that? I didn't say that wrong.
I'm sure you'll correct it for that.
You know what? I'll just get a starship and go back in time like Star Trek does and fix it.
That's cheap. Low blow, man.
Yeah.
Low blow.
It's
this is a lot of fun, man. This was great.
I'm really glad you were here to.
Yeah, somebody said something. I forget what the heck. Angie Shauna was talking about something Kruger, but it made me think, let's do a Freddy versus Jason or something.
Dunning-Kruger. Oh, we could do like 80s, 90s horror.
I heard Kruger and all I could think of was Nightmare on Elm Street. Let's do Nightmare on Elm Street versus Friday.
I don't know what that is. That's like a fancy medical term that they use to just shut you up. You're dumb. You don't know what this is. Okay, security.
So Star Trek is great at
operate a mask with no moving parts.
Star Trek is the best at that of fake science talk.
Yeah, they do a good job.
We are the best.
But Star Wars doesn't even try. They don't have to.
Yeah,
Lightsabers.
because it's not about science.
So we have a minute left, a minute and a half left. Let's just do a big hug. Kumbaya, and sing like On Eagle's Wings or something, some sort of bad since the 70s church music.
We could sing the theme song to Enterprise.
Do you have it handy?
No, I could. Well, you know what? I try
Can
to
you
play
pull it up?
things on YouTube, but it never works.
Oh, I
Pull
can
it
try
up
to
on
pull it
YouTube.
up. Let me see if I can find it here.
'Cause it's glorious.
YouTube open. Enterprise theme song. It's terrible, but it's so good.
It's gloriously bad.
Oh, is it? I found an extended version. I don't think I'll subject anyone to the extended. You know what?
You hear it and you
Wait,
cannot believe this
I'm
is
gonna-
this is Star Trek.
Oh, this is
Where'd Sophia
perfect.
go?
I'm
Where'd
going to
Sophia go?
screen share this
Where'd
YouTube
Sophia
window, and I'm going to stream it back to YouTube because it's crazy, but I can do that. I think it's this
Ooh, I
bad
love
boy
it.
right here.
Do it.
Share this screen.
All right, this is how we're going out.
You see
we're
it?
going out. We're
Here we
going out
go.
we're going out with Enterprise, right?
Here we go.
You're about to get kicked off, so this is how we're going out.
This is how we're going out.
All right.
Until next episode, ladies and gentlemen.
Woo.
Finally near, and I will see my dream come alive at last. I will
See, there's your sailing
touch
ship.
the
That's what I'm talking about.
sky, and they're not gonna hold me down.